Welcome to the Heart of It All. I'm Teri Hart. I love what we've been discovering with this podcast. And one of the most profound discoveries has been understanding the relationship between caregivers and receivers. Whether someone is facing the need for chronic care or acute care, learning about the relationship from the care receiver's point of view is crucial. Today, we have an absolute legend on the show to talk about her experience needing care through her cancer journey. The one and only Jeanne Beker is our guest today. Hey there, I hope you're having a lovely day. I'm Teri Hart. The discussion of care is happening in many places these days, from boardrooms to kitchen tables. As our population ages, caregiving will become, and maybe already is, the issue of our times. This episode of The Heart of It All is brought to you by Capital Direct. Since 2006, Capital Direct One Income Trust has been investing in and supporting Canadian families and homeowners. The Capital Direct One Income Trust may be a perfect addition to your portfolio. Their proven track record has been recognized by the Canadian Hedge Fund Awards for Best 10-Year Return, and it's eligible for qualified investment accounts, including TFSA, RESP, and RRSP. For more information, visit incometrust1.com. Not all caregiving is long-term. Some caregiving can be necessary through an illness or treatment. That's the case for this week's guest and for millions of friends and family of those who receive a cancer diagnosis. From surgeries to radiation and chemotherapy, a cancer protocol can leave a person in need of support of all kinds. Jeanne Beker was diagnosed with breast cancer in the spring of 2022, and in almost 4 years, she has lived that experience out loud through social media with a bravery and transparency that can only be admired. Of course, Jeanne was the host of fashion television for 27 years and made us all feel like high fashion was within our reach. Jeanne's media career includes hosting a myriad of other shows, editor-in-chief of FQ and Sir magazines, and style editor for TSC. Jeanne has honorary doctorates from St. Mary's University in Halifax and OCAD University, and was named to the Order of Canada in 2013. Jeanne has also written numerous books, including her most recent, Heart on My Sleeve, Stories from a Life Well Worn. I am so thrilled to have Jeanne Beker here on The Heart of It All. Jeanne, welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me, Teri. It's a joy to see you.
So I'm going to take you back, if you can, to when you received the diagnosis of HER2. And you wrote in the book that I just mentioned, you said, it's not exactly the worst kind, but not the best either. And this came in 2022. What was your health like up until that point?
I had just turned 70 and felt incredibly invincible. Like I wanted to write a book about feeling empowered with age, and I just felt like I was on top of the world. So when I went for my mammogram a couple of weeks later, and then got a call a couple of days later telling me that they had found a 3-centimeter mass. Like, it's like, "What? You must be mistaken. That must be a cyst. That's a no, I don't know. You better come in for an ultrasound biopsy." Well, biopsy, that's like, the second scariest word in the English language, and, so I went in for an ultrasound biopsy, and, then the doctor said, "And we should get you an MRI too," and, shortly thereafter, I got that dreaded call that, they had found cancer.
Did you feel anything? It's so ignorant on my part, but I think a lot of people feel this way, Jeanne. Like, you didn't feel any different. You didn't feel any.
No, I mean, this is the thing. No, I mean, and this is something else that my oncologist had told me, cancer doesn't hurt. I mean, if it starts, maybe, God forbid, if it moves into a situation where you're in stage 4 and it metastasizes and it starts affecting other organs or, your bones or something, you might feel it. No, there was no pain at all. And I didn't even feel a lump. I couldn't even once I was told that it was there and I would go in for my, regular checkups with my oncologist all through, the process and happily once I started on chemo, they saw that that lump was being decimated, which is fabulous because that showed that wow, the chemo's working, but I still never really could feel it. So no, I did not feel a thing. And that is why I think so many of us, meaning us, gals who've had cancer are so terrified of this kind of recurrence because it's just like, well, I was just going along in my life and feeling totally perfect, and one day and all of a sudden they're telling me I'm not. So that could happen again, just as easily. And every little twinge, of course, that we feel and every little ache and pain, and we think, oh, well, now what's happening to my body? So, yeah, it's, listen, cancer never really leaves you in a way. Psychologically, it certainly doesn't once you've been diagnosed with it. You live from scan to scan, and, you just have to accept it and almost embrace it and be so grateful that we're living, in an age when so much can be done, when so many cancers are not only treatable, but curable and that you and in my case, I mean, I'm a patient at Princess Margaret Cancer Center, which to me is like my temple of healing, and I look at it that way. So I'm happy every time I go there. I never dread going there. It's like, wow, what a place. This place saved my life, and it's just filled with angels, and it's the most remarkable thing to have that level of a cancer center right, here in downtown Toronto. Just a few minutes from my home. Very, very blessed. So you just have to spin everything so you look at life in the light.
When they told you they'd found a mass before the biopsy and they confirmed that it was in fact cancer, who did you tell? Did you tell Ian? Did you tell Becky? Did you tell Joey?
No, I did not tell anyone except, Ian, of course, and I don't think I really told anyone at that point because why should I get anyone else worried, like, yeah, I'm freaked out for sure, but, just trying to be positive and thinking, well, okay, maybe if they caught something, they caught it early enough that I'll be okay. But no, I didn't tell anyone until after I actually got the diagnosis.
So Ian knows you get the diagnosis. How quickly did they tell you what your protocol would be, Jeannie, in terms of chemotherapy, radiation, how they were going to fight this cancer?
I mean, it didn't really take too long. I can't remember exactly. I got the diagnosis like in May, and within a couple of weeks, I was over at Princess Margaret seeing Dr. Tulin Sill, who is my oncological surgeon. Brilliant, fabulous woman. I love her to pieces. And, the minute I saw her, the minute she just radiates so much light and positivity, like I was relieved because, she told me, yes, we got it early and, you'll be okay, basically. I mean, I don't know if anybody really knows if anyone's gonna be okay, but she kind of told me that, and it just made I just wept in the and she goes, "Why are you crying? What did you think I was gonna tell you?" I thought, I honestly in that short period between the diagnosis and when you finally meet your doctor and you decide how you're gonna deal with things, that really is a time when you start planning your funeral. At least I did. Like, I started thinking, "Oh god, that's it. That's it for it's curtains." Jump to the worst case scenario. My mom and bless my mom because she's a Holocaust survivor who ultimately did find light in the darkness. But she always used to say to us when we were little kids, "Expect the worst and you'll never be disappointed." Because it was her way of trying to protect us from, being disappointed and being, "Oh, well, just expect the worst," because bad stuff happens all the time and you have to be ready for it. Just expect the worst and then you'll never be disappointed. Well, that's not a very wonderful way to live one's life. It's definitely a, glass half empty way of seeing the world. But, I did end up getting into that mindset. Okay, I'm gonna expect the worst, so I won't be disappointed. So I was so relieved when I was told it could be fixed.
So what shifted that mindset? Because certainly what, you know, the tens of thousands of us who so joyfully follow you on social media and have watched you so publicly be open and brave and at times, frankly, Jeannie, celebratory. What shifted in you from, expect the worst and you'll never be disappointed to I'm going to look at Princess Margaret as my temple of healing and there are angels that work there and all of that positivity that you approach this with from your diagnosis?
Well, I think without question, the way I talked to myself as I was prepping for that first visit to Princess Margaret, and as all these dark clouds felt that, really they were encompassing me in a crazy kind of way, but I was just like I kept telling myself that we all have the choice. I mean, it's like that brilliant book that Dr. Edith Agar, the, wonderful psychologist, Holocaust survivor, wrote, The Choice. Or like what Viktor Frankl, writes about in his book, Man's Search for Meaning. I mean, it's all about no matter what horrendous thing you are going through, that is one thing that no one can rob you of, the choice in your attitude. So did I want this experience to be robbing me of my joy? Because I love my life, love it. I just love life in general. I was all of a sudden, being threatened by the possibility that things might not be so good. And I just thought, no, I just want to try and live in the moment. And I just kept telling myself that. But it really wasn't until that first daunting morning that I, arrived at Princess Margaret for my first appointment that something just clicked in me. And I remember a saying that Confucius once said, wherever you go with all your heart. And I thought, I'm going to walk through these doors and I'm going to give myself over to this place. And I am going to look at this as my temple of healing because this place has the potential to really make me all better. And then the minute I got to the second floor breast clinic and met Dr. Sill, and she, reassured me that, okay, we're going to find out a way of, I still had to meet my oncologist, Dr. Aitana Mir, another great rock star there. And, we had to figure out how we were going to do this because I had several options for treatment. I mean, did I want to have a lumpectomy right away and then have chemo, or did I wanna have chemo first? And that was that was a daunting decision to make because, there wasn't as much data on, well, if you have chemo first, then, hopefully, the good thing about that is knowing that the chemo is working. Like, if you get the lump out and then you go for chemo, well, does the chemo really doing anything or how you're dealing with it? But I decided to take my chance and have the chemo first, and it was 12 rounds of chemo, um, every week, um, but it was all the while I just kept thinking of it as a job. This was my new job. I've always been very work oriented and very, pretty disciplined about anything to do with my work and my career and, what was expected of me, and I'm just a great work ethic, I think, that I got from my dad, so I thought if I look at this as my job and it's gonna be my job to do it, and I was gonna do it wholeheartedly. I was just because I did not want to do it any other way. I mean, why? If I have the choice to be positive or negative, why would I choose to be negative? Who wants to, live, under all those clouds?
So what once you made the decision to do the chemotherapy first, what scared you the most about entering into chemotherapy and then radiation?
Well, on a very superficial level, and I don't wanna sound too shallow, losing my hair. I think that's a big thing for women. It is. We don't like, I'm not saying I define myself by my hair, but it's all of a sudden, I mean, I was looking in the mirror, trying to imagine myself what I'd look like as bald, putting on little turbans, trying to get so that was a big one. Or before I, knew exactly what I was gonna do, What if I was gonna get a mastectomy, like, how would I feel, being boobless? Or what would that feel like getting my I've always, been very proud of my breasts and love them, and how would that affect me? Those kinds of superficial, like, the physicality of it all, how is that gonna change me? Because those are sometimes things, well, you can't do anything about it. That you really it is what it is. If you're afraid of how something's gonna affect you psychologically, I believe you can always get through any psychological BS, if you really work at it and, it's not easy, but you can't but physically, it is what it is. But then my first appointment with Doctor Amir, he talked to me about this cooling cap that I'd never heard of before. And that was amazing. So I signed up for one, he said, "Okay," and I only ended up losing about 60% of my hair. I mean, it wasn't like I kept all of it, and it was pretty disconcerting when it was falling out anyway, even though I was going through this, grueling cooling cap business because it's not the most fun thing. But at least I felt like I was doing my utmost to hang on to my hair, and then I was told that your hair would grow back even more beautifully, and it did grow back even better, like, my hairdresser marvels at, how nice my hairs grow back. So, I mean, I know that's so and if I had had to go completely bald, I would have worn that as a badge of honor, I'm sure, because, we all have the power to adopt an attitude that's gonna get us through life.
Yeah, I sense in you a bit of a like, I don't want to be shallow about this, and I know this sounds like maybe it shouldn't be what I was concerned about. I guarantee you, like 85% of people listening to this right now are nodding at like, yeah, I'm worried. I don't want to lose my hair. I don't want it. Like that's a profound physical change that I think is very honest to recognize is worrisome and would be top of mind. I think we have to be honest about these things, whether they be the most dire or, seemingly superficial. You talk about your work ethic. You talk about, how you've always been focused and responsible about your career and your very significant commitments. And your life moves fast. Your life has moved fast for decades. What did you think about being unwell and needing help and what that would mean for you?
Well, I've never been really good at asking for help. I just have always considered myself to be very self-sufficient, and I never, want I hate asking for help. I honestly I detest asking for help. I don't know why that is, but I just don't wanna bother anyone, but from the very first moment that I was diagnosed, because I got the call from my doctor, the bad news, when I was, like, sitting across from my beloved partner, Iain, at this little we were at our favorite country pub, just about to devour a plate of wings or something, and when I got the call and I knew, "Uh-oh," and she's going, "Oh, it's bad news," it's like, "Ah," and I just looked at Iain in the face, and he knew what the call was about, and he looked the color kinda drained from his face a little bit, I'll never forget and my heart just immediately went out to him because Ian is the father of 3 gorgeous gals, but one of them who's had cancer 3 times and had cancer as a child. So Ian has lived with that, someone going through a cancer journey, and Ian's, late wife, passed away from liver disease, so I knew he was an incredible caregiver to her. I mean, he was so there for his daughter, Julie, and he had just lost a brother to glioblastoma just a couple of years after we met. Like, I've been with Ian for 10 years now, so I knew all the horribleness that Ian had been through with people that he loved and cared for having, passed, or in the case of Julie, wow, she survived, but I just can't even believe what he went through as a father of a young girl like that. So the first thing I said to him was like, "I'm sorry," because I knew that he would take it upon himself. And I thought, "What is this gonna do to Ian? Like, how is he gonna like, at this point in his life, does he really want this? Does he really need this after all he's been through?" but he was, like, just my rock. Like, he was just, "No, don't worry, we'll get through it. We'll get through it together." I mean, it's so lucky that I had a partner at that stage of life because my marriage broke up in, like, 1998, and I had a series of, kind of partners, boyfriends all through the years, but it wasn't until 2015 that I met Iain, and I was 63 years old already, that I really felt I had a life partner, again, and, Iain was just, I just knew that he would be there for me, and I knew it would make the journey so much easier, and my heart really, 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 can't say it enough, goes out to people who might not have that support system, or especially, having a partner who's really there for you.
So you have Ian, and you also have your two gorgeous daughters, Becky and Joey. One lives kind of close to you, the other, geographically speaking, and the other one really absolutely not geographically close to you. She lives in the Yukon. Um, at what point did you consider what their role would be in your caregiving circle, Jeannie?
Well, I didn't really expect them to be caring for me in any kind of physical sense. I knew they would care, like, emotionally and raw, and, that their love also would help see me through any darkness I was going through. But, Joey, my daughter who lives in West Dawson, which is, like, outside of Dawson City in the Yukon, very far away. She, right around the time that I was, starting my chemo, she got into her pickup truck with her camper on them, and she drove back to Toronto to be with me, and she stayed with me, for, about a year and a half. I mean, that was great, and Ian was very adamant, and I loved the fact that he did, go to every doctor's appointment with me and every chemo appointment with me, except for I think there was 2 chemo appointments he didn't go to only because Joey really wanted to go with me. But, the hardest thing is, like, telling these people or telling my sister, my big sister, that this was happening, but, I just immediately said, "But don't worry, yeah, I've got breast cancer, but don't worry, I'm gonna be okay, I'm gonna be okay, I'm gonna be okay."
Interesting for people to understand how difficult it is to tell the people you love. Your children, your relatives, your dear, dear friends. Was there something that you did in the process of figuring out that you had to tell people outside of sitting across from Ian when that phone call happened? Like, did you create a script, Jeannie, in some way? Or was it dependent on who you were speaking to? How did you get through that emotional weight of telling people?
Well, just by convincing myself that I was gonna be okay. I knew, because I had to be authentic, so if I told them, "I've got cancer, but I'm gonna be okay," I had to be convinced that I would be okay, and I really felt that. And I remember, telling my followers, that was a big thing too. People, "Are you gonna announce it to everyone? Are you gonna be public about it on social media?" Blah, blah. And I thought, "Well, if my life has been such an open book, what a hypocrite I'd be if I didn't tell them about this big life event." And I remember the first day that I sat in the chemo chair, and it was Wellness Day. There's such a thing as National Cancer Wellness Day. So I thought, well, this is serendipitous. Here I am, sitting in the chair, and I was, it was daunting, but I thought I'm going to tell everyone. And Ian took a picture of me, and I told everyone, yeah, I've got it. This is it. And people were just the outpouring of love and support and goodwill that came to me, that ended up truly being the wind beneath my wings and helping me through the cancer journey because it was just a restored my faith in humanity.
Yeah, so your experience and your advice would be to people to be open because of the love you receive from people.
Well, of course, but I do totally understand why some people just can't, and they won't, and they can't. I can only say, for me, that's the type of person I am. I mean, I just like my book, heart on my sleeve. I've always, worn my I wanna be, as authentic as possible. I don't think I'm that good an actress. I'm a pretty good actress, but, that I just couldn't imagine keeping something like that a secret. I did not wanna keep it a secret, and then sharing it with the world ended up being one of the biggest blessings of my life, because I tell you, Terry, that year, let's say, of going through that cancer journey, without question, was the most extraordinary year of my life, and I don't look back at it with any horror or, fear of it coming back, of course. No, nobody wants, you'd have to be an idiot to, ever want something like that to recur. That being said, I knew, and I kept telling myself this too, and I just knew it innately, that this experience was gonna make me a bigger, better, braver, bolder, wiser, stronger person. I just knew, because I knew nothing like that can happen to you and not affect you that way, or that's the way I feel. Just like the Holocaust made my parents bigger, better, stronger, bolder, braver, wiser people. Just like my marriage breakup, which at the time was like the worst thing I could possibly have imagined happening to me because I was so devastated. And it truly made me a bigger, better, braver, bolder, wiser person. And all of it, all these bad things that happen to us make us more compassionate. And isn't that what it's all about? That compassion. That's what we should strive to really, work on. Like, just if we can be compassionate about others, wow, it's really a blessing.
I really, really believe that we need to understand all of this better and we need to have more empathy, whatever side of the table we sit on. So, compassion, empathy, Jeannie, I could not agree with you more. Knowing that, let's talk about that year. Let's talk about that cancer journey. What did that look like and what did you require in terms of care?
Well, and that's another thing. So many people reached out to me. People, not only just good friends, people that I wasn't really even that close friends with, but people that I knew saying, "If you need me to take you to a chemo appointment or you need me to hold your hand or sit there with you." I remember Deborah McGrath, brilliant comedian, and her husband, Colin Mochrie. I mean, I've known Deb for years, but I mean, we're not like close friends, but yeah, I just always felt a nice little bond with her, just knowing her peripherally, even over the years. I'll never forget, she sent me a DM saying, "Oh, we would like to bring some food over to you. Can we bring some food over?" And I just thought, wow, people sending me like blankies and little stuffed animals and crystals that I could hold on to. It just meant the world to know that there were so many people out there rooting for me. Oh, here's a really good thing that I should tell you about, and this is a nice thing that you might wanna share with, your listeners, because it was a wonderful, idea. Julie, Ian's gorgeous daughter, who's a three-time cancer survivor, when she found out I had cancer and I had to go through chemo, she came over to my house with this big bucket wrapped with 12 gorgeous little presents, all gift wrapped, all numbered 1 through 12. She goes, "Every time you come home from a chemo appointment, you get to open one of these little presents, one of these little surprise presents." And I've done that now with a friend that recently went through cancer. And these are like little things like a little scented candle or a little, or maybe some, lip balm or hand cream, or maybe it's like a little journal to, just sweet little things that give you something to look forward to opening at the end of your chemo treatment.
I think that's really key, right? The something to look forward to is so key. And I think that one of the things that struck me is the idea for you, Jeannie, and I don't know you that well. I have ideas about you, but I have an idea that you had, control in your life. The things that you can control, you've been very good at controlling. And when you're in a situation where you're requiring treatment, chemotherapy, and, waiting for scans, there's so much that you are not in control of. Were you able to manage that? Was that something that you felt you had to manage throughout this idea of what you couldn't control?
No. I felt, as I said, that this was a job and my bosses were the doctors. So whatever they told me to do, I was gonna do it. And I didn't have that control issue whatsoever. I really felt I had that much faith in, Princess Margaret Cancer Center and the doctors there, and, that this was, going to be my lifeline, and I was just going to give myself over to it.
Amazing.
I went there with all my heart.
You mentioned earlier how you are not good at asking for help. I think you used the word despise asking for help of others. You're in a situation you were in a situation for that year that you talk about that you would have required some help. Did your ability to ask for help evolve over that time, Jeannie?
Not really because I didn't have to ask. I mean, I was lucky enough that people were offered. I never had to ask. I never said, "Could you do this for me?" Never. And, especially like someone like Ian who takes such good care of me. I mean, this guy brings me breakfast in bed every day of my life and has for over a decade, okay? Whether I want it or not, whether I'm hungry or not. Like, he's just got that kind of caregiving personality, bless him, he's so wonderful. So, like, I never had to ask him for no, he was just there, and so many people offering, and almost got like, "No, I'm okay, it's alright, don't worry." Because people do really worry about you a lot. The only but it was help, and I had to ask but he did it so wholeheartedly. My fabulous hairdresser, Gregory Parvatan, who's been my hairdresser, I kid you not, Terry, since the '70s,
Amazing.
since I started doing the new music, okay, in 1979, this guy's been my hairdresser. I'm loyal to a fault. No, no, not to a fault, but I am very loyal. Gregory actually came out to my country house to give me a haircut when my hair started thinning, and I knew I'd have to go to a much shorter hairstyle. That was so great. That was so appreciated.
What surprised you about, we started this chat about you talking about how incredibly healthy you'd always been, never had a problem, were feeling frankly invincible as you turned 70 and then surprise received this breast cancer diagnosis. What surprised you about being in the patient role?
Just maybe feeling, the vulnerability or feeling sorry for myself sometimes, which is a horrible thing, really, but I guess we all do it. I don't know. From time to time, I just feel sorry. I started feeling sorry for myself, and how could this be? But in a funny kind of way, it put me in touch with a part of myself that I maybe had long forgotten, with a kind of the little girl in me. I really felt like the little girl who was, going through this, big scary thing. I did feel, vulnerable. There's no question. Of course I felt vulnerable, and as things progressed and as I lost all my eyelashes and my eyebrows and all that, and my nails, like, I've always got, like, such great strong nails. All of a sudden, my nails got really thin. I thought, "There's a major thing happening to my body here." But I had to turn that around and think, "But it's a good thing because whatever it's doing to my body, it's also, eradicating that tumor." And truly, by the time it came time for my surgery in, late October of 2022, my lumpectomy, Doctor Sill said, "Wow, there's, like, hardly anything left there." Like, there was, like, it was unbelievable. This tumor had just totally shrunk, so that made me feel good too. I think a lot of women that hear that they have breast cancer just immediately want to get it out, so that they don't wanna go for chemo first. They would rather, just have the lumpectomy, but I just thought this made more sense for me, to do it that way, and it just, wow, the miracle of the human body, that's another wonderful, realization that you get from all this, like, wow, what our bodies are capable of doing and repairing themselves, healing.
It's incredible, isn't it? I wanna you talking about vulnerability there is particularly curious to me because I think that women, I'm not a huge fan of gendering things, Jeannie, but I think that women particularly tell ourselves and the world tells us that vulnerability is a weakness, that vulnerability is something that we should not show and do our best to not feel. And what I'm just hearing from you there is that your vulnerability, when you felt it again, was actually something that helped get you through this. Is that correct?
What my vulnerability did ultimately was make me grow as a human being. And admitting my vulnerability to the world probably gave me more fans. I hate to say it, people love a vulnerable person. I always encourage people to show their vulnerability, and for me now, it's like, I mean, I was never really afraid of showing my vulnerability to some degree. I mean, like I say, when my marriage broke up and I felt so vulnerable, I wrote about it. I told everyone about it. It wasn't like I was, keeping it secret. Bad things happen to you, and it's just part of the human condition. I mean, this is just what life's all about. The great stuff happens and horrible stuff happens, and we just have to, hold on as tight as we can no matter what. But to try to pretend that that you're really invincible. I mean, that is a bit of, and I think that's what was happening to me a little bit. Maybe by the time I turned 70 and my life just seemed so picture perfect, really picture per I'd finally found a partner that I was, madly in love with and, had just a great lifestyle. And, I was still working and doing my thing. And I just felt so blessed. My kids were good. I mean, it was a very sweet time in my life. So, I did feel pretty invincible. And I just finished reading that wonderful Norma Kamali book about I Am Invincible. And I thought, yeah, Norma Kamali's always been a good heroine of mine. I just absolutely adore her. I think she's so brilliant. Yeah, it was scary, but not the kind of fear that I couldn't really overcome, and I think that's what we all have to realize that, yeah, fear can be there, but, you can overcome it, you can beat it, you just gotta put yourself into the groove and adopt the right mindset, I mean, you've gotta have faith. You just gotta have faith. You gotta have faith in yourself and in the universe taking care of you.
What are some tips that you can give people who want to show care and support but aren't sure what is right?
Just let people know that you're there for them, and if you seriously don't mind being called upon for that kind of care, and if you seriously are really willing to put yourself out there, you have to remind people that you are out there and send them a text. I'm not saying don't, with the calls and everything that drive you crazy, but just a text every few days, maybe. Just to let you know I'm here for you, just checking in, just to see how things are doing. Don't go on and on. I remember the worst thing was another very dear friend of mine when I told her about my situation, like, when I first received the diagnosis, she was like, "Oh," and she started, like, crying on the phone. It was like I said, "I'm sorry, I love you, but I'm ending the phone call right now, and, you get your head around this because the last thing you want is negativity." And I definitely made that conscious decision that I was going to eradicate negativity and all negative people and people that weren't looking at my situation as a good one. I just don't wanna have anything to do with them. So it's important to let people know that you're out there for them and that you're cheering them on and that, and be as positive. I mean, I'm not telling you to be a phony if you really don't believe they're gonna be okay, but I don't think there's anything wrong with, people saying things like, "You've got this," and I love that. I loved hearing that. I love people telling me that I've got this, you know?
In your experience, what are some of the kind of non-intentional mistakes that people make with somebody going through cancer treatment?
Well, just the very fact that you were touching on earlier, what I understand that people feel awkward or they don't wanna bug the person, so they just kind of disappear a little bit. They may be thinking about that person 24/7, but, "Oh, I don't wanna bug them, so I'm not gonna." But and I'm not saying that anyone should bug anybody, but there's no bugging with a little four-word text like, "Hi, how are you?" or something. I mean, you don't have to just to let people know that you're out there for them should they need you. I think that's really important, but don't hound them and don't make it look like you're just so freaked out and overwrought with, your friend's, situation that you're just, sick about it because that makes the patient themselves feel really bad. Like, I didn't want anyone freaking out about what was happening to me. I didn't wanna certainly didn't want anybody really worrying about what was happening to me. But, yeah, you wanna think that people are caring, and some people kind of disappear. I mean, I learned not to take it, I didn't wanna hold it against them, but there were days that I thought, "Hmm, why haven't I heard from so and so in the last week or so?" You know?
From your perspective, and it sounds like Ian was just like, I mean, gosh, it sounds like Ian is like a gift from the gods outside of being a caregiver.
Oh, yeah, well, you read the book. My mother sent him to me, I met him 2 weeks after my mom passed, and all she ever wanted was for me to have a great guy that would, take good care of me with a full head of hair. No, how shallow is that? No, my mom always loved. Yeah, that's I just knew the minute I met Ian 2 weeks after she passed, I thought, "Okay, my mom definitely sent this guy to me." And, and also, that's a that was a wonderful thing too, feeling the presence of my parents, even though I lost my dad in 1988 and my mom, in 2015, but, I still feel them with me every single day, guiding me, cheering me on, protecting me. So I felt, incredibly close to them for the whole journey as I do each and every day.
I think selfishly, a lot of the impetus for this podcast was my dad being unwell and then him dying August 1st of 2024. And I do think quite selfishly, every time I'm talking about caregiving, so quite frequently now that I'm doing a podcast about it, I am thinking about my dad. And I think that I have done that for myself, for my own grief and loss and missing him. I think it's amazing how we maybe unwittingly take care of our own emotions through action.
Yeah, no, for sure, but whether, you have the idea to do this on your own, but, your dad was probably really responsible for planting that idea, and your dad, I'm sure, is with us right now facilitating this whole conversation and all of the wonderful podcasts that you do, Terry, 'cause, that's just the way I feel. I really believe that.
I think I do too. I think I do too. From your perspective of somebody who received care from strangers, from, acquaintances, from colleagues, from people you love, from your family and your friends, what do caregivers get right?
I mean, you just wanna feel loved, warts and all, after, really finding out that you aren't perfect physically, and that's why you need the care. It's still a great feeling to know that, people love you despite what may be going wrong with your body. That is, unconditional love makes the world go round.
If you could say one thing directly to caregivers right now, what would it be?
Well, it would be what I would tell cancer patients or anyone going through anything, or just what I tell my kids. It's what I tell anyone looking for any inspiration to do anything in this world. Don't be afraid and never give up. That was my dad's motto. That's what saw my parents through the war, that mindset. And again, with caregiving, I think that's what it's about too. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to maybe go out of your way or, don't be afraid to offer. And just never give up on the person. And they might be having a bad day and telling you that they don't need you, but it doesn't mean that they don't want to hear from you a few days later.
Absolutely. How do you think we can better support caregivers?
Knowing how much caregivers are appreciated. And if you're on the receiving end of care, just make sure that your caregiver knows how much you appreciate it. And it doesn't mean that you have to lavish them with expensive gifts or send them flowers but just sincere thank yous and I love yous and it'd be hard to do this without you. I think that could mean a lot for caregivers.
Thank you so much, Jeannie. This is going to, I mean, people are so interested in what that relationship is like. And I think you really did pull back the curtain to let people know and how wonderfully grateful you were and what that meant for you to receive all that love and expression of concern throughout that really transformative year of your life.
Yeah, and it continues, and it continues. I mean, I've done a lot of incredible things in my life and have had a lot of, incredible things happen to me but nothing more really extraordinary than this relationship with people, this connection with people, whether they are survivors themselves or they've taken care of loved ones who've gone through it. People who really, understand what those journeys are like, reaching out and giving you support and telling you that they're there for you, even though you've never met them before, you don't even know their name. It's a wonderful feeling. It really, like I say, it really restored faith in humanity and, continues to.
Well, you give so much of yourself through that social media channel, and really, it's filled with so much positivity. So thank you very much.
Oh, you're so welcome, Terry. It's joy talking to you. Take good care.
Jeannie is truly a legend, and her spirit throughout her cancer journey is remarkable. You really should be following her on Instagram because her account is filled with joy. This episode of The Heart of It All is brought to you by CapitalDirect.ca. You can also follow them on IG and us too. We are at The Heart of It All Pod on all of the social channels, and we love seeing your shares of our podcasts and new follows. We appreciate you all for being here. Thanks to Carrie and Jess at 6 of 1 Digital for co-producing this pod with me, and thank you for listening. As always, please take care. This week's movie recommendation is The Fantastic 50-50, starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Seth Rogen. It's a love story, a cancer story, and a friendship story. I love this movie so much. Seth Rogen is having a moment right now, but this is proof, well, all the way back in 2011, he's always had it in him. The energy between the two leads is undeniable, and it's a movie filled with hope and about supporting the people we love. You will love it.